Right now, somewhere inside you, something is dying, not your body, something deeper. The person you were, the identity you built, the version of yourself you thought was permanent is dissolving, and here is the terrifying part. Nothing has come to replace it yet. You are standing in a void between two versions of yourself. The old you is gone, you can feel it. The things that used to excite you feel hollow. The people who once felt like home now feel like strangers. Your own reflection looks unfamiliar. Identity is dissolving. And the new you, it has not arrived. You cannot see it, cannot touch it, cannot even imagine what it looks like. You are caught in the most terrifying place a human being can occupy, the space between who you were and who you are becoming. Most people run from this place. They desperately try to rebuild the old self, or they force a new identity that does not fit. But what if I told you that this void, this emptiness, this death, is exactly where transformation happens? As the philosopher Kierkegaard once warned, the most common form of despair is not being who you are. Stay with me, because what you are about to discover could change everything. The death within. Before a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, something horrifying happens inside the cocoon. The caterpillar does not simply grow wings, it dissolves. Its entire body breaks down into a biological soup. For a moment, it is neither caterpillar nor butterfly. It is nothing. This is exactly what is happening to you right now. Psychologists call it an identity crisis. The philosopher William Bridges called it the neutral zone, that terrifying gap between an ending and a new beginning. But most people misunderstand what is actually dying. It is not you. It is your ego structure, the collection of beliefs, habits, roles, and stories you told yourself about who you are. Maybe you were the successful one, the strong one, the one who had it all figured out. And now that identity is crumbling. And you are panicking because without that story, who are you? Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He wrote that every transformation demands as its precondition the ending of a world. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Your old world is ending, and that pain you feel, it is not a sign that something is wrong. It is proof that something is finally right. But this raises a disturbing question. The void between. There is a name for where you are right now. The ancients called it liminal space, from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold. You are standing on the threshold between two rooms. The door behind you is locked. The door ahead has not opened yet, and you are stuck in the hallway. Liminal. This is why everything feels wrong. You wake up and nothing excites you. Your old dreams feel like they belong to someone else. You try to plan for the future, but your mind goes blank. You feel disconnected from your friends, your work, even yourself. You are not broken, you are in between. The anthropologist Victor Turner spent decades studying rites of passage in tribal cultures. He discovered that every major transformation follows the same pattern. First, separation from the old identity. Then, the liminal phase, a period of confusion, disorientation, and formlessness. Finally, incorporation into the new identity. If this understanding of transformation is opening your eyes right now, hit like and subscribe to keep exploring the depths of human wisdom. Because what comes next will explain why you have been feeling so lost. Here is what modern culture gets catastrophically wrong. We skip the liminal phase. We demand instant transformation. But as Turner showed, the liminal state is the necessary condition for all transformation. Without the void, there is no rebirth, and that leads us to something even more unsettling. Why it hurts. Let me tell you why this transition hurts so much. Your brain is wired for identity coherence. It needs a clear story about who you are. When that story breaks down, your nervous system treats it as a threat. Identity threat detected. Neuroscience has shown that identity disruption activates the same brain regions as physical pain. You are not imagining the suffering. Your brain is literally processing the loss of your old self the same way it would process a physical wound. This is why you feel exhausted even though you have done nothing, why you cannot concentrate, why you cry for no reason, why you feel anxious about everything and nothing at the same time. Your nervous system is grieving a death that nobody can see. The psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross identified 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Most people only associate these stages with losing someone else, but they apply perfectly to losing yourself. The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. You are grieving not a person, not a relationship. You are grieving a version of yourself that no longer exists, and until you understand this, you will keep trying to resurrect a corpse. But what if the grief itself is the gateway? The dark night. 500 years ago, a Spanish mystic named St. John of the Cross was imprisoned in a tiny cell. No light, no space, no hope, and in that absolute darkness, he wrote one of the most profound texts in human history. He called it the dark night of the soul, a necessary descent into total darkness. He described a process where everything you thought you knew about yourself and God and meaning is stripped away, not as punishment, but as purification. The mystics understood something that modern psychology is only now confirming. You must lose yourself completely before you can find yourself truly. Jung later described his own version. Between 1913 and 1919, he experienced what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. 6 years of visions, inner chaos, and what many would call madness. His colleagues thought he had lost his mind, but from that darkness emerged his greatest discoveries, the archetypes, the collective unconscious, the process of individuation. His breakdown became his breakthrough. As Jung himself wrote, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Darkness becomes light. Your dark night is not a dead end, it is a passage, and what waits on the other side might shock you." Shedding skin. Here is something nobody tells you about personal transformation. Before the new you can emerge, certain things must die, and you do not get to choose which things. Your old beliefs about what success looks like, gone, your attachment to how others see you, stripped away. The comfortable stories you told yourself about why your life looks the way it does. Shattered. The existentialist philosopher Nietzsche described this with brutal clarity. He wrote about 3 metamorphoses of the spirit. First, the camel, the obedient one who carries the burdens of society. Then, the lion, who roars a sacred no to everything imposed upon it. And finally, the child, who creates new values with innocence and wonder. Most people get stuck at the lion stage. They know what they do not want anymore, but they cannot yet create what they do want. That space between the roar of no and the first breath of yes, that is where you are. You have already said no, but you have not yet learned to say yes. As Nietzsche declared, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. The chaos you feel is not destruction. It is creation in its earliest, most unrecognizable form, but there is a trap in this process that catches almost everyone. The trap of forcing. Here is the trap. When you are in the void, the anxiety becomes unbearable, so you do something desperate. You try to force the new identity before it is ready. Forcing kills growth. You rush into a new career, a new relationship, a new city, a new personality, anything to escape the discomfort of not knowing who you are, and for a while it feels like relief, but deep down something feels off, because you did not allow the transformation to complete. You painted over a crumbling wall instead of rebuilding the foundation. The cracks always show eventually. The psychologist James Hollis writes about this in his book The Middle Passage. He explains that premature closure, choosing a new identity too quickly, is one of the most common ways people sabotage their own growth. The fastest path forward is learning to stay still. Think about it, a broken bone that is forced to bear weight before it heals will break again, worse than before. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The void is not your enemy, your impatience is. The Taoists understood this deeply. They called it Wu Wei, the art of non-forcing. Let the river carry you, but what does it actually look like to surrender to this process? The art of waiting. There is a Japanese concept called ma. It means the space between, the pause between musical notes, the silence between words, the emptiness that gives form its meaning. Without the empty space, nothing has shape. Your life right now is pure ma, and instead of filling it with noise, what if you learn to listen to it? Here is what the void is actually offering you if you are brave enough to accept it. Clarity about what truly matters, not what your parents wanted for you, not what society expects, not what your old self was chasing, but what your deepest, most authentic self actually needs. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote letters to a young man struggling with uncertainty. His advice was revolutionary for its time, and still is today. Have patience with everything unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Love the questions. Do not demand answers, sit with the unknowing, journal without direction, walk without destination, sleep when your body asks, cry when the tears come. This is not laziness, this is the sacred work of becoming. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, discovered that meaning cannot be pursued directly. It must ensue as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself. Stop chasing the new you, let it find you, but there is one thing you must do while you wait. Trust the process. While you wait in the void, there is one non-negotiable requirement. You must trust the process even when you cannot see the destination. Trust. This is perhaps the hardest thing a human being can do, to stand in complete darkness and believe that light exists somewhere ahead. Every great thinker who ever lived went through this exact moment. Socrates in his prison cell, the Buddha under the Bodhi tree, Jesus in the wilderness. Every transformation begins in total darkness. They did not have proof that their suffering had purpose. They had faith, not blind faith, but the deep existential faith that comes from knowing that every winter has been followed by spring, that every night has eventually given way to dawn. 1. The caterpillar dissolves before it flies. 2. The seed splits open before it grows. 3. The phoenix burns before it rises. 4. You must fall apart before you come together. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius during some of the darkest days of the Roman Empire. His words still cut through time. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult. Dare to wait. Dare to trust the void. Dare to believe that the person you are becoming is worth the pain of losing who you were. But here is the question that changes everything. Signs of arrival. How will you know when the new you is finally arriving? Here's the truth. It does not arrive all at once. It seeps in slowly, like dawn. One morning you will wake up and notice something different, not excitement exactly, more like a quiet curiosity about the day ahead. You will find yourself drawn to new things without understanding why. A book catches your eye, a conversation sparks something, an idea appears that feels like it came from someone else entirely. The new you does not announce itself, it whispers. You will notice that the opinions of others bother you less, that you can sit in silence without anxiety, that the things you lost no longer sting the way they used to. The old programs no longer run your system. The psychologist Abraham Maslow called these moments peak experiences, brief flashes of your highest potential breaking through the fog of transition. In any given moment, we have two options: to step forward into growth or to step back into safety. Pay attention to these whispers. They are the first breath of the person you are becoming. Do not analyze them. Do not question them. Just follow the thread. Because the new you has been forming in the darkness all along. You just could not see it. And this brings us to the most important truth of all. The sacred death. Here is what I need you to understand. This death you are experiencing is not a tragedy. It is the most sacred event in a human life. Every great spiritual tradition, every deep psychology, every transformative philosophy points to the same truth. You must die to who you were in order to become who you are meant to be. The mystics called it ego death. The Stoics called it the obstacle as the way. Jung called it individuation. Death, rebirth, sacred. Different names, same process. Same terrifying, beautiful, necessary destruction. Right now you might feel lost, disconnected, afraid. You might look around and see everyone else moving forward while you stand paralyzed in the void. But you are not behind. You are in the deepest work of your life. The old you needed to die because it was too small for the life that is coming. The dreams you had before were someone else's dreams. The fears that controlled you were not your fears, they were inherited. The limitations you accepted were never real. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Blossom. You are not dying, you are being reborn, and rebirth always begins in darkness. So here you are standing in the space between who you were and who you are becoming, the void, the liminal space, the dark night of the soul, and now you know something most people never learn. This is not a crisis. This is an initiation. Crisis is initiation. Every philosopher, every mystic, every psychologist who ever mapped the human soul has pointed to this exact moment as the birthplace of your greatest self. The caterpillar did not choose to dissolve. The seed did not choose to split. But without that dissolution, without that breaking open, there could be no wings. There could be no roots reaching toward the sun. You are exactly where you need to be. So stop fighting the void. Stop mourning the old you. Stop forcing the new you to arrive on your schedule. Trust the darkness. Trust the process. Trust that the universe has not brought you this far just to abandon you in the hallway between two doors. As Rumi wrote, the wound is the place where the light enters you. If you made it this far, comment reborn in the void if you are ready to stop running from the space between. The wisdom of the ages is yours. Use it well. If this unlocked something in you, subscribe for more. The vault has more. Share this with someone standing in their own void right now.